not reflect the opinions of Comcast or its affiliates.
Welcome to Chicago Theater Review. I'm Frank and Gail, and we have a wonderful show for you today. We have the dueling critics who have agreed to come on our show. I think they hated us for a couple months, that's why they haven't been here. But we got Jonathan of Barbanel, and we got Kelly Kleiman, both the dueling critics from 91.5 WBGZ.
WBEZ 91.5 FM.
FM on the dial. Okay, so we've got some great shows to talk about. The Goodman just opened up a new show, which everybody's been waiting for it for the last year because it contains Nathan Lane and Brian Dennehy, called The Iceman Cometh. And you saw the opening, didn't you?
Kelly and I were both there at the opening. This is the very famous, though rarely done play by Eugene O'Neill, the great American playwright. It's set in 1912 at a real low-life bar dive on New York's Lower West Side, a bar of last resort, a dead-end place where inhabited by drunks who have sunk as low as they can go.
You can tell by the way Jonathan describes this that he spends a lot of time.
It's the kind of place that I have been at. Right. And it is one of the, it was written late in O'Neill's career when he was a master of characterization and a master of his particular form of verbal poetry, of which this play, I believe, is perhaps his finest example. It is a very, very long night in the theater as you really get to know and live with these down and outers and the journey that they go on.
Let's tell them how long.
4 hours and 45 minutes. It's in 4 acts with 3 intermissions, but that shouldn't scare you off because it is a brilliant production, beautifully acted by a large ensemble of 18 people who really, really bring the material to life, and I found it quite riveting. And the genius behind it, despite the stellar performances by Nathan Lane and Brian Dennehy, and really the entire cast, the real genius behind this is the interpreter, the director, Robert Falls, who is the artistic director of the Goodman Theater, because it is a singular and powerful vision, and it is his.
What did you think, Kelly?
I loved it.
Really?
I loved it. It is an absolutely remarkable version of the play. I've seen it before, as most theater critics have, but the last time that I saw it, Kevin Spacey was playing the central role, and what I noticed is that when he wasn't on the stage, I was kind of drumming my fingers on the table, waiting for him to come back on the stage. What's so powerful about this is that at all times you're completely engaged with whomever is at the focus. It's also clear from Bob Falls' approach to this that this is a piece about a false messiah. The first thing that you hear about the traveling salesman, who's played by Nathan Lane, is, oh, when Hickey gets here, everything will be great. Hickey's so fabulous. Hickey's so wonderful. And you realize it sounds like they're talking about the arrival of the Messiah. And then he arrives, and he is an apostle of hopelessness. All he wants to do is tell all of these people that their lives are a complete wreck and that they should face that fact and stop pretending that their lives will ever be better. And the parallel between Greek tragedy on the one hand and portrayals of the end of the life of Christ on the other make this an extremely powerful evening in the theater. I cannot recommend it highly enough.
Well, I'm glad you both liked it. We were supposed to go, except Goodman only gave us 1 ticket.
It has been extended, and I believe that Nathan Lane is not going to be in the entire run of the show.
I haven't heard that. It's only been extended 1 week, and I am quite certain that he is with it for that final week, which it was to have closed June 10th. It is now extended through June 17th, and they wouldn't bring in another actor for 1 week. That would be...
That'd be cruel.
Yeah.
But
And we're
did-
particularly grateful that they've extended it a week because the American Theater Critics Association will be meeting in Chicago that week, and now they will get a chance to see this really wonderful representation of Chicago theater.
We're really going to get to show off Chicago. then.
That's exactly right.
But let's show a clip of The Iceman Cometh. So that's The Iceman Cometh. You both liked it, so you got the 2 thumbs up. So this should be a great show to see. Remember, you only have 2 weeks to really get to see it. From there, let's go to, well, before we talk about Steppenwolf, you brought up something. You're going to be in charge of a group of people that are coming to Chicago with the critics. Tell us all about that.
Okay, the American Theater Critics Association is the only national professional organization for theater critics, whether you're writing for publication in print or on television or radio, and we even now have a category for bloggers. And every year they have their annual conference in a different American city, or sometimes it's a festival location. They are returning to Chicago this June 13th to 17th. This will be their 4th time here, but they haven't been here in 10 years, and it'll be my 3rd time as chairman of the conference, which is a very fine word for chief donkey, the person who does more heavy lifting than anyone else. Kelly is also assisting
Assistant
greatly.
Yes, that's exactly right. I'm the vice chair of the conference responsible for cleaning up after Jonathan.
After the main donkey, right. They will be here
What?
to...
And give up show business?
They will be here to see Chicago theater and shows. They'll see The Iceman Cometh at the Goodman. We will also, as a group, see the world premiere, the first performance of Eastland, the world premiere musical at Looking Glass Theater. And in between, we'll be seeing shows at probably 3 or possibly 4 smaller off-loop theaters, Belmont Avenue, New Black Ensemble Cultural Center, and so forth. And they also, with the support of the Chicago Office of Tourism and Culture, they will have access during their free time to many of Chicago's tourism and cultural attractions.
Which we have plenty of in this city.
We do.
There will be no shortage of things for them to do.
Even though we're broke, we still have plenty of stuff in this city.
Right.
So let's go to Steppenwolf, and there's a new play called The March. And
just as Bob Falls has become the premier exponent of Eugene O'Neill, Frank Galati has become the premier interpreter of the work of E.L. Doctorow. The March is an adaptation of Doctorow's novel about Sherman's March to the Sea, which ended the Civil War. And it is someplace between a pageant and an epic. It has a huge cast, and it consists of people who are variously in the Union Army, running away from the Union Army, or following after the Union Army. And needless to say, there's lots of tragedy and violence involved. At the same time, there's comedy and all sorts of miniature human interactions against this enormous backdrop. At the center of it is General William Tecumseh Sherman, who's played by Harry Greener, who's a wonderful actor, most recently known for playing King George III in The Madness of King George III at Chicago Shakespeare. He is just as good as Sherman as he was as King George. I hope he moves here and stays here indefinitely because he's such a great portrayer of leaders that I'm ready to vote for him for mayor.
let's see a clip of The March.
I can look upon hideous sights and live in the open as men do, and I feel no pangs of guilt for betraying my southern loyalties.
I don't know what I've done since I left the plantation but attach myself to white men, coddling up like slaves do to protect themselves. Didn't nobody sell me off in an auction? I done sold myself. And what does that make me but a slave?
Okay, so that's The March. That's playing at Steppenwolf. From that, we're going to go to Jersey Boys. We're not even going to talk about it because I think everybody's talked about it. This is the third time it's back in Chicago. It's still a great cast. It's still about Frankie Valli and the Four Seasons, so nothing's changed. So let's go right to a clip of Jersey Boys.
Just too good to be true. Can't take my eyes off of you. You'd be like heaven to touch. I wanna hold you so much. At long last, love has arrived, and I thank God I'm alive. You're just too good to be true. Can't take my eyes off of you. Who loves you, pretty baby? Who's gonna help you through the night? Who loves you, pretty mama? Who's always there to make it? Who loves you? Who loves you, pretty baby?
So that was Jersey Boys. Now we're going to go to a play that I haven't seen. I'm hoping that you've seen it at Profiles Theater. It's called In a Forest Dark and Deep.
I have not seen it. Okay. I know it's a play by Neil LaBute,
Yes.
a company with which Profiles has a long association and a close relationship.
I know this deals with sibling rivalry and stuff, so it's supposed to be a thriller. Gail, what was it?
That's exactly what it was, and I was right in the front row, and I got a little box thrown on me. And his plays are they're very intense. I know you guys have seen some of his others.
And disagreed on some of his others, yes.
And it's such a small space, even though this is a new space that Profiles has, but it's still a small space. And I guess the best way to describe it is it's disturbing. His shows are supposed to be disturbing.
It's about a brother and sister, is that
it's correct? It's about a brother
Sibling
and sister,
rivalry?
yeah, and there's a big twist, but you know, it makes you very uncomfortable, which is what
pretty much all of
which is
LaBute
what
makes
he's
me
supposed
very
to do.
uncomfortable.
Yes, yes.
That's his goal then.
When it begins, sort of, I believe the audience thinks that she's the good one and he's not, but it doesn't necessarily turn out that way.
Nope, nothing is what it seems.
That's a good one. Let's see a clip of...
I think that part one of the first of the two plays is just extraordinary. It just is completely astonishing. And this production, which stars Larry Yando as Roy Cohn, is splendid. For my money, the second half of the play is Tony Kushner's trying to end the first half of the play. And he does that for 4 hours and never succeeds. And so if you have time to see part one, you should certainly do that. And if you have time to see part two, maybe you should do something else.
Part one I always liked. Part two, he was supposed to change. He wrote a new ending. So I thought it was going to make some great difference in this show, except he just added the new ending to the old ending and put an extra 30 minutes onto this show so that we got out at 11:45.
He didn't really write a new ending. He made some small revisions during the course of it. The ending really is the same. And here's the deal. In part one, which is a brilliant work of drama all in itself, Kushner asks some of the most fundamental and profound metaphysical questions that anyone can ask, that philosophers have been asking for years and years. You know, why do we live? What about God? Is there a God? Things like that. And as brilliant as he is no more capable of supplying satisfactory answers to those questions than anyone ever has been. And that is the challenge of Act Two, and why Act Two doesn't quite dramatically and philosophically live up to the expectations of Act One. And I must say, though this is regarded as the quintessential play about the era of the AIDS epidemic. It's set against the presidency of Ronald Reagan in the 1980s. This is not a play about AIDS at all. AIDS is merely a framing device. The great villain, Roy Cohn, and the great hero, the reluctant hero, Prior Walter, played by Rob Lindley, both of them are dying of AIDS, but that's the framing device. This is a play about what it means to be an American, and who gets to say who and what an American is. And that is what this play really is about, and it is just as pertinent and just as current and important today when we are in an even more conservative era than we were during the Reagan years. It is just as important, its message and its themes, as it was when it was new in 1992.
I love the staging of it. And I thought they did a great, and Charles Newell is the one that directed this, and it was just great. I think the whole staging was perfect. You know, and as the conservative of the group here, my only comment was, you know, if he's going to make some changes to the second half, maybe he should make the changes of the fact that the Reagan administration did put a lot of money into AIDS even before Ronald Reagan mentioned the word AIDS on TV in 1987. It took the first 3 years, but the government already spent almost $180 million. And if you go onto the website, you can look up the actual data that we spent, because from 81 to 84, I worked at the White House. I was in the military, and I knew that we already talked about it, and we were already putting money into it, because they weren't worried about the population, because we thought it was a Haitian and South African and a gay disease. But with the military, they were worried about military soldiers getting ill and coming down with it, and how would that affect the military. So we were spending money. It's just that he never mentioned anything on national television until Doris Day and Rock Hudson.
I don't think that AIDS is in any way a liberal play or a conservative play.
Angels in America.
What did I say? Sorry, I'm so busy trying to get to my point. Angels in America is not about liberal or conservative. Jonathan is right. It's about being an American, and it's also about betrayal. And I think whether one is liberal or conservative, watching people betray themselves, betray their lovers, try to redeem themselves after they have betrayed them. And this is the use that Kushner makes of Roy Cohn on the one hand and Ethel Rosenberg, who was one of Cohn's victims, on the other hand. I think that's really the focus of the play, and it's a mistake to treat it as a polemic about what Ronald Reagan did or did not do.
Right. Because if you look outside of that, it's a great play, because it gets into all, it actually it intertwined how these lives met one another, and how one life, even though one's on the other end of the scale, actually knows the other through interconnections. So you get that interconnection part, which I like about the show.
Absolutely.
How Cohen is actually intertwined with the others.
Well, and Kushner makes the point, and Newell makes the point, by having characters played by actors of the opposite gender. So that Hollis Resnick, who's a wonderful actor with whom we're all familiar, begins the play playing an elderly rabbi. And, you know, Hollis Resnick is known for lots of things, but one wouldn't ordinarily mistake her for an old Jewish man. And those interconnections and those we are all one are really the message of the play.
Those are Newell, no, those are Kushner's. Those casting decisions are written into the script.
Okay.
That women play 3, if not 4, of the smaller men's roles written into the script. And, you know, the idea that the great villain of this piece of Angels in America is Roy Cohn, because Kushner is a radical liberal. He's a leftist, even very much by today's standards. He's not a centrist. He's not a moderate. And Roy Cohn was a deep, dark, dyed-in-the-wool conservative. But the reason that Roy Cohn, if you follow Kushner, burns in hell is not because he was a conservative, but because he denied who he was. He was a self-loathing gay man and a self-loathing Jew, would not accept or acknowledge who and what he was. That is why he is the villain of the piece and burns in hell, not specifically because of whether he was on the political left or the right. And Kushner says also, you know, I'm not going to let someone like that define who I am as an American.
Well, We could do a whole show on Angels
We
of
could.
America, which maybe we will one of these days. But we're going to cut out all the clips. We are going to now a happier sight to a new play, which is a musical, which has come to Chicago. And that is called Motherhood, the Musical. Started out in Florida. It was written by a woman who's actually a Costco shopper, I found out, who basically took motherhood, put in some characters, and came up with all the different ideas dealing with children. And what we did was we got somebody from the cast. We've got Andrea Boswell Burns. You play in the show.
I'm actually an understudy for 3 of the different characters. There are 4 characters in the show, and I'm one of the swing understudies because right now all of the girls are actually performing.
There's a performance
at the Royal George Theater right now as we speak. They're performing, so here I am to speak about Motherhood the Musical on their behalf. It's a great show. It is a show that really brings motherhood, a very comical side of motherhood, but also kind of tugs at the heartstrings of all of the audience members as well. And it's not just a show for mothers, it's definitely a show for everyone, men included, because we all have a mother or know a mother very well for sure, and have seen motherhood brought to light, and not just the sitcom-y way, but in the very real venue as well. So this brings to light all of those wonderful things about motherhood, but also brings up some very interesting topics like leaking and the wonders of childbirth for sure, and then things like graduating to buying a minivan, as well as celebrating when the kids finally go to sleep. So it shows all
And you
of
are
the
a new
wonderful
mother,
parts.
correct?
I am a new mother. I've only been a mother for almost 13 months. And I find that I connect to every single character, even the 50-year-old mother who is raising upwards of 6 children.
Well,
so
they were saying that this show really connects with mothers mostly because they're the ones that go through all the trials.
Exactly.
You know, the husbands, they go off to work and they don't see the kids for most of the day until at night.
That's right, that's right.
Now, but the Royal George is going to do something special because it's falling during the month of Mother's Day.
Yes, yes. So actually on Mother's Day, Motherhood the Musical is working in conjunction with some other organizations to provide free donuts, free Dunkin' Donuts to the mothers in the audience, as well as a $10 gift certificate to Standard Market, which is in Westmont. And
Which I also want to mention, Standard Market just recently opened, as did Bakersfield, the restaurant. We went to the opening, and it's in Westmont, and Standard Market is this huge, unbelievably huge market. The restaurant across the street was a fabulous restaurant,
They were on our show last month.
Yeah, he was on
with
our show.
Standard Market. So it's a great place to go to. I highly recommend
if
it.
you're out
So-
in that area or in the Oak Brook area.
And then in addition to that, in addition to all of the mothers receiving the Dunkin' Donuts and the $10 gift card, one person from each show, one mother from each show will be chosen at random to receive a $200 gift card to Standard Market. And then one of the local restaurants, it's actually right down the street from the Royal George, the Trattoria Gianni, is offering a special to motherhood patrons that day. It's a 3-course fixed menu, and for $25 you can receive that whole
Yeah,
meal.
and that's a top-rated restaurant.
Yes, it is.
It's a
It's
very good
excellent. We actually
restaurant in
did a cast
Chicago.
party there, and it's
Did
fabulous.
you qualify to win any of these? If you were-
Well, I'd probably not to win the gift certificates, but
I think you can visit the...
if a father happens to attend the Mother's Day, doesn't he get a donut too?
I don't know that you
Just
get a
the
donut,
Mother's
but
Day
you can eat at Trattoria Gianni then for $25 because I think that's all motherhood patrons. So
And for some reason, none of this is enough to make me want to be a mother. Although it might make me want to go see the show. I'm very entertained by your little slogan, the good, the bad,
bad,
the
and the
laundry.
yes, and unfortunately that is the life sometimes.
Now,
so.
how long is this show going to be running?
Well, right now it's slated to run until June 17th
Right before
without an
Father's Day.
extension, but we are an open-ended run. So right now, go see us while you can and make sure that we stick around Chicago.
Well, we do have a clip of the show, and this is the famous song, which
The kids are finally
The
asleep.
kids are finally
Yes.
asleep. So let's show this clip from Motherhood, the musical.
We all appreciate that glorious sound of silence. Amen to that.
lazy team. Well, I took them into bed, Lord. I pray their souls to keep. Sing hallelujah. The kids are finally asleep. Sing hallelujah, hallelujah, hallelujah. The kids are finally asleep. I can park my big bus in front of the TV, but the kids are finally asleep. I can pluck my eyebrows, I can paint my toenails, I can scrapbook in my city if I please. No more fussing, no more fighting, no more dirty honey wiping, 'cause the kids are finally asleep.
It also brought you Menopause the Musical. Now bring you Motherhood the Musical.
And that ran a long, long time at the Apollo Theater,
Yes.
so I think well over a year.
It did,
So.
it did.
So if you're looking for some ideas for Mother's Day, this is a great thing to do at the Royal George Theater. And I'm going to give you actually a phone number to call. It's 800-982-2787, or you can go directly to the box office. And I also want to mention, before we are out of time, very quickly, that Jonathan has an announcement that I guess you're going to hear here first about the University of Illinois.
The University of Illinois at Chicago, where I teach, I'm on the adjunct faculty in the Department of Theater and Music, has just appointed a new chairman of the Department of Theater and Music, and they have reached into the Looking Glass Theater Ensemble and selected Christine Dunford, who is a long-time, I believe actually a founding member of the Looking Glass Ensemble. Eventually she returned to school, got her doctorate, and has done some university teaching. She is known not so much for her acting, but for her writing and adapting of works and her directing. And as of next fall, she will be taking over as chairman of the Department of Theater and Music at the University of Illinois at Chicago.
They didn't pick you? I thought they were going to.
And also, really quickly, the non-equity Jeff Awards are June 4th at the Park West, and anybody is invited to go to those. And we're running out of time, and we didn't get a chance to mention really quickly. You guys saw this show at Circle Theater called When the Rain Stops Falling. Circle Theater is kind of reaching out to people right now. They might be having a little financial difficulty. We love the theater, and they haven't been nominated for a Jeff Award for a while. You guys both thought the show was very good.
Terrific.
It's in Oak Park. It's a lovely, elegiac, haunting story of 3 generations of 2 families, how they come together, set mostly in Australia. Very, very literary, very beautiful language, and a beautiful physical staging.
With that, we're going to say
thank you so much.
Thanks
and
for coming,
get out and
Andrea.
see Motherhood
Thank
the
you.
Musical.
See Motherhood.
Jonathan,
Jonathan
and Kelly, thank you so much. It's always a pleasure to have you guys on the show.
Delight to be
Our
here.
pleasure.
From Chicago Theater Review, I'm Frank, and good night.